stop. Family shop. Think Thayer. Come on, let's get rolling. Come on, let's get moving. Think Thayer.
Questions for Coach?
Chris, I'm sure by this point everyone's seen the preseason polls first in both the media and the coaches. Just from a personal standpoint, from a staff standpoint, does that give you guys validation to the way you've been building the program since you've been here?
I'm not sure, Ryan, if validation is the right word, but there's some pride in that, and it's not just for me and the staff. All the guys that have been through this with us over the last 6 years, this current team for sure. We walked into a situation where people were questioning Bowling Green hockey, not that team, but as a program, the future. I hope that people outside of this school and outside of this town know how important BG hockey is to the people on campus and in this town. Our guys have worked extremely hard over the last 6 years to make us relevant again. With all that being said, all those preseason polls are as an opinion, and that's not going to change or define who we are on a daily basis. But I think it means that people are noticing what's going on at BG.
Polls aside, how do you feel about this team getting ready to start things off, depth, all that stuff?
I'm excited about this team. I mean, I think we all are excited. Our depth at all three positions are as good as it's ever been. There's competition there. There's going to be accountability for people's play every day. You're not just going to go back out there because you have in the past. I think it's that early season excitement that's going on right now. The month of September in our sport is kind of a grind. You arrive on campus, these kids are hungry, they want to go and they can't go. You have to kind of pull them in. But this Saturday they get somebody in a different color jersey and who's going to push back. So there's excitement and energy just because of that. But I do believe that this is the deepest, most competitive team at all three positions that we're going to have, that we have had to this point, and we'll see what that brings out in people. I believe that if you put people that are wired right in a situation where there's competition and there's accountability, you get the most out of everybody. And I'm excited to see where that statement can take this team.
Do you try to downplay the expectations and the polls and all that thing, or are you a guy that kind of plays up to it and lets them know that there are the high expectations?
I don't downplay it. The expectations are real. The expectations are now mirroring what our expectations are. I want kids to come to Bowling Green to play for these expectations. I want kids to come to Bowling Green to play for championships. I want kids to want to come to Bowling Green because we're expected to be a top team in this league and any league. So that's a good thing. We're not going to shy away. We're not going to downplay it. But we want it to be a responsibility that everybody has who comes to be part of this program, staff, players, whatever.
Chris, last year's team also had these expectations based on the previous team being ranked and how close they came. But what is different in your eyes this year from last year? Today,
John, not much. Today. Last year's group didn't deal with adversity great. I'm the first person that you go to with that. That's my fault. That's something that we'll have to learn from and get better at. When I say last year's group, I mean us. 12 months later, probably the expectations of this team are a little bit higher than last year's team. What's changed? Not a whole lot. We haven't faced any adversity yet. Nobody's pushed back, so we haven't had to deal with anything really bad yet. The lineup goes up on Friday, which means some guys will see their names on there and some guys won't. How does that affect this group? I think it was the things that were tougher to see. Because last year we had a great first half and then we went sideways for the course of the second half. Was a roller coaster ride. Is this team going to do the same thing? I don't know. We're sure as heck going to try not to let that happen again, but that's something that we'll have to cross each bridge as we get there in terms of what the adversity looks like. Do we start off poorly? Do we start off great? Well, whatever it may be, I think today, as very similar to 12 months ago, the expectations are high. What's going to be different? I'm not sure yet. We're going to sure try to learn from what we've done in the past. And you've heard me say this before. The more times we're in a situation I hope the better will be prepared to do better in that situation the next time. And this is our next opportunity right now. So let's face it head on and see where we go.
I know the answer already, Coach, but a little feedback on the rules changes this year. We're not going to be playing all night long in and out of ties, for example, huh?
Yeah, from a league tie-breaking perspective, I'm excited about that. I think our game is teetering on almost too long a little bit. Now I know I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I think when the game goes that long and then there's a tie, it leaves our fans wanting a little bit more. Now it could extend the game a hair, but the game is there won't be leaving with a tie. The 3-on-3 will be exciting. The shootout, I think, is exciting. So those are good ways to I believe, first of all, mirror the National Hockey League, which is what all the players want to play in the National Hockey League. So I think our game should mirror theirs. That'll do that for us, and then I think our fans will be pumped up to see how we're going to settle those ties, and we'll do it home games, non-conference anyway. We've got a couple NCHC teams non-conference. Our overtime is just like theirs. The Big Ten, I'm not exactly sure what their overtime rules are, but we're excited about it as a league. I know all 10 coaches are pretty interested to see how this goes, and we'll see. I hope we have a team that we've been practicing 3-on-3 a bunch when we had the availability to do it. So we'll see how we do.
How about improvements in the facility as far as fan exchange goes, the video board, et cetera? That's got to be exciting.
Yeah, I think, Clint, if you look back at the last 6 years, the building is just a more positive place. And everyone's going to laugh at this, but when you start at the parking lot, the parking lot 6 years ago was a disaster, and now it's great. And that's a little thing, but it matters to our fans and the experience. And I think the people that come in the building. Now the building's got a great vibe to it. It's got a good feel to it. Still that homey atmosphere and that hard place to play atmosphere. And now you've put a state-of-the-art video board that's going to bring some replays and some life to the building as well. So I'm really proud and excited with all we've done with the building and the people that are in it and how we run it and overall the experience our fans are having when they come.
Talked about depth and the competitive nature of this team. Is talent overrated? Because a lot of guys back, clearly talent should be better. But
I don't think it's overrated ever. I'd like to see a coach that says talent's overrated. I think we've got lots of talent, but I can tell you if those talented players think they're going to get by on their talent alone, that'll never be the case. The identity of the hockey program here is you're going to work, and hopefully you add your talent to that work, and now we've got a pretty good player. If we've got a kid who's got talent without work, he'll be watching. And they know that. So I want our talented people, which I think that's what makes our depth better. We've got more talented people at all three positions. I want our talented people to compete. And if they do that, then I think they'll be a better player. And ultimately, if they don't, we think they'll get exposed for it, and ultimately they end up sitting in the stands. That's not a decision I'm going to make for them. We'll see what they decide on a daily basis, how they want to handle that. But make no mistake about it, we want talent, but we've got lots of talent. We just don't want that talent to go without work.
In terms of that depth last year in the first half on the blue line, you guys kind of were in a tough position with just the number of team that you have. Defense this year with 5 guys back plus the incoming freshmen that you have. Will we see sort of benefit to having that additional depth in terms of the bodies available on defense?
Yeah, I think, Ryan, you know our team as good as anybody just from following us, but our lack of depth and defense last year hurt us the most. You can always find some depth up front. Goaltending, you've got depth. Our lack of depth on the back end last year, at least for the first half of the year, it hurt us. We had kept putting people out there, even though maybe they didn't deserve to be out there based on their play. Now you've got those 5 kids returning, led by Sean and Mark, and you've got 3 incoming freshmen who are fighting and competing and scratching to get out there to play. So that, to me, brings out the best in everybody. That would probably be the number one position where you're going to see, I hope, the depth help us.
Does it help as well having 2 guys? Obviously, you mentioned Sean, but having 3 men as well, who obviously played a lot of hockey in their career, as well as the guys that you had last year. Adam Smith played a lot in the second half, as well as Chris and Connor both getting a ton of experience last year. Does that kind of help shape the way that you sort of form a foundation for the 3 new incoming freshmen in terms of how they're supposed to?
100%. 100% it does. I want the incoming freshmen learning from the upperclassmen. when you look at Rauhauser and Dalton and Nico Kaufman and you say, okay, follow somebody, well, I think Sean Walker's a pretty good place to start, just the way he handles himself both on and off the ice. Mark Friedman and Sean are both all-league type players. You talk about talent and work. Both of those guys are talented players and they're workers. So absolutely. I even want those sophomores continuing to learn from Mark and Sean. So it helps, Ryan. I don't think you can put a value on that, how much that helps when you've got two all-league type talented players who work as well. And not only, like I said, not only the three freshmen, but the three sophomores from last year, they got two pretty good examples to basically watch every day.
And also, you also have an all-league goaltender in Chris Snell, as well as a pretty hyped freshman recruit coming in Ryan Bednar. Do you guys have any sort of plan in terms of a goalie rotation when you throw Thomas Scholl in there as well, or is it kind of just going to go with who's hot?
Well, Ryan, it's interesting because whatever plan we may have had September 1st or August 22nd, the first day of school, Thomas Scholl blew that plan up by coming in the best shape of his life and probably having the best September that he's had since he's been here. So now the game is on. We do have an all-league goaltender, and we're not going to pretend we don't in terms of a returning player in Chris Snell. And we do have a highly touted NHL draft pick goaltender, freshman, who comes in with expectations. But Thomas has raised the bar of his game, and ultimately all three of them are going to have to continue to push the envelope. So I see all three of them playing. I don't know how that's going to look. But like I said, whatever plan we had got blown up by Thomas having a good summer, which is a good thing for a coach. It's one of those positions, I guess, like quarterback or whatever, only one guy gets to play, and they know that. But we hopefully will have a really high level of competition in goal, which means our goaltending should be taken care of this year.
You talked offensively, Chris, about getting goals by committee. Are there chairmen of that committee this year?
Well, you're going to start with the three senior forwards. I mean, with Matt and Merce and Dufour, all guys that have put up numbers for us before. They've all played a bunch of hockey before. I think that Brandon Hawkins is a guy that has to be part of that conversation, but Brandon hasn't been on the ice yet due to injury, so I'm afraid that he's not going to be part of that conversation, at least for a while. So I think there probably should be a chairman or two, but I don't think there is one in this particular case. I think it's going to be by committee, and part of that committee is going to be Sean Walker, is going to be Mark Friedman, is going to be the rest of the D-corps that play every night. These are guys that look at the game from an offensive perspective without giving up defense. We're going to defend, and we're going to have strong goaltending, but we're going to need contributions from our defensemen in offense, and that will help with the creation of offense. I'd like to see Stephen Bayless with a full year under his belt. I think at some point Stephen will be a chairman of that offense, but I don't know if he's ready for that just yet. And nor should he be. He's a sophomore, hasn't played one game his sophomore year. So you look at those three seniors to be the leader, to lead the way for us, to be the chairman of that offense by committee, and then we're going to need guys chipping in.
What is Hawk's situation?
It's a lower body injury that basically has kept him out of our conditioning, and if you don't pass a conditioning test for the hockey program, you don't go on the ice. So unfortunately, it's that we've got to go in stages. We've got to get him healthy so he can pass his conditioning test so he can get on the ice. And we're right at this point, he's not healthy. So there's still a couple pieces that have to happen before he'll go on the ice, and then he'll be a month behind. So unfortunately, it's just one of those things. You know, it's injury, and that's an opportunity for somebody else.
It doesn't sound like there's a precise schedule for he should be doing this by this time.
Exactly. There is not, John. There's not a schedule.
We didn't see Chris Bolking this weekend.
Kevin, that's a good question. He started hitting officially last Friday. That doesn't mean he went out looking to run people over, but he's got a physical component to his game, and if giving him another day off, because we can basically we can control the contact that he has in practice. He's not in no contact right now. He's kind of in controlled contact, where you put him out there against Windsor and you can't control that contact, obviously. So if it's in his best interest interest to control that contact for another week, then that's what we're going to do. And we're going to err on the side of caution there. But right now, we haven't made that decision. I think he's progressing nicely. He's realizing, probably like any injury, that first hit again, or that first push on the knee or whatever it is. In his case, it's a shoulder. So he makes contact with somebody that he initiates and feels, oh, this is okay, I'm going to be good. I think he's in that process right now. So it's too early to tell if we'll see him or not. I would think it's very likely that we'll see him against Bemidji, but I don't want to write off Saturday either. I just don't know yet.
What have been your impressions of the team so far in the 2 hours you've been?
It's been good. The starting point has been as good as it's been in terms of X's and O's. We've developed a work ethic, so there's work out there. But I think from an X's and O's perspective, the starting point is as good as we've had. So I'm really happy about that. I'll take it a step back. The impression from a conditioning and strength standpoint was really good. I was really happy with the summer we had, and that's generally speaking. I'm not going to pick on any one good or bad, but there wasn't many bad. And then we got him on the ice, and where we left off last year in terms of the X's and O's piece and the way we want to play, we were able to pick up pretty good. So those freshmen are learning from guys that have been there before. So that's a good thing, and I think we're seeing it in that 2 hours a week that we get them.
Would you anticipate all 3 goalies playing center?
No.
Just when you talk about that starting point in terms of both the conditioning and the X's and O's, do you have any particular theories as to why you think it's been the best that you've seen so far?
Maybe this is the coach in me, Ryan, but my theory is that they're home from a conditioning standpoint. If I'm not doing it, someone else is going to do it, so I'm going to lose my place. And again, if you have someone that's wired properly and has that thought process, he's going to get his rear end out of bed and go do what he needs to do before he goes to work or whatever it is he's doing that day. So that part is there. The on-ice piece, I just think they're familiar with it. We haven't changed our system a whole lot. We've tweaked it here or there. So it makes it easier to just kind of pick up where you left off on the ice. And we don't have, when we've got 8 freshmen, but there's a goalie, there's 3D. I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag there. And you've got upperclassmen that you can say, follow him. So that's a good thing. So I think from an off-ice perspective, it's they don't want to get left behind and or they want to make a good first impression if they're the freshmen. And then on ice, I think we've just got a good group of older guys that know the system we want to play and are able to pick up where we left off as a team last spring and help the freshmen come along pretty quickly.
How many freshmen would you expect to be in your top 12 forwards Saturday and your top 16?
I don't know, Kevin. First of all, we can dress more than that with the exhibition game, and I think we're going to take advantage of that if we can, maybe with 1, 2, or 3 extra guys. So I think saying top 12 or top 6 is not realistic because we're probably going to have 13 or 14 up front and probably 7 for sure on the back end, depending on how Chris looks. So we're going to try to get as many of those guys out there as we can because they deserve it. They've worked hard this September and they deserve to get a reward. And because when we get to Bemidji the week after, you're talking about 12-6, and that makes it difficult. So we're going to try to get as many of those guys out there as we can.
Good.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.